Hello everyone, welcome to the Learning Royal. I want to thank you so much for all of the support you have given us so far as we reach the 100 subscriber mark, and I hope you do continue to do so in the future. Today we have a special episode that's based on science, as we are starting our science playlist this video, and in this video we'll be covering the characteristics of life. Now this subject is debatable, and there are many different characteristics that people may choose to believe in or they choose to accept. But here I'll be going over some characteristics of life that generally are agreed upon. Um, Obviously, there might be some points of debate. Well, you're free to share your thoughts on that in the comments below. But otherwise, let's get started. This will give you a good overview of what exactly is a living thing and how do we differentiate between living and non-living. So first here, the first characteristic of life is that these organisms are organized into cells. Organized into cells. So what this means is that living things are made of cells, and cell is the basic unit of life. So basically, cells can come in different shapes, different sizes, but you cannot see them with just the naked eye, right? Cells are the basic unit of life. Every organism is made up of that, made up of cells. Organisms can either be unicellular, or they can be multicellular. Multicellular. What I mean by this, unicellular, if you look at the prefix, it's uni. Uni means one. So unicellular means single-celled organisms. And you can remember this just by looking at the prefix uni, single cell, and in multicellular, if you look at multi means more than one. So these have multiple cells. They are made up of more than one cell. More than one cell. And as humans, we are multicellular organisms. So here, this is just a basic overview. Unicellular, single-celled organisms, and multicellular is more than one cells. More than one cell. And here we have the first characteristic of life. Let's go into the second characteristic. Basically, the second characteristic is use energy. So all organisms use energy of some sort. Whether you have a unicellular organism like bacteria, or you have a multicellular organism like a plant or an animal. All of these organisms use energy of some kind. Unicellular organisms may use it in a different way than humans do, or maybe plants do, but all of these organisms use energy in some manner. So that is a characteristic of life. The third characteristic that we have on the list is grow and develop. So when you look at yourself, you go back to when you were a baby, and when you start there, you see that you've already grown so much since you were a baby. Maybe you've grown from like tiny little baby, that's maybe like 2-3 pounds, or somewhere like that. It goes all of the way to like 100 pounds, 150 pounds. They grow in height as well. You grow from like being a foot 2 feet to being like 5 feet, 6 feet, 7 feet long, high. So that's the characteristic of all organisms, because even if you look at a bacteria, it's always growing. It's always growing in size, and when it grows in size, this leads into our next characteristic, which is to reproduce. When these organisms grow and develop, they're growing and developing their systems. And like if you have a bacteria, it's going to reproduce. Reproduce meaning it's gonna produce more offspring, more children, like in order to continue their species, basically. We're not just gonna end. So if organism is growing and developing, we're not just gonna end at that specific organism. We're obviously gonna have to continue life somehow. That's how we get more organisms in the world, right? So those are 4 characteristics. Now I'll scroll down a bit so we have some more space here. Now let's go on to the 5th characteristic of life, which is contains chemical compounds. So containing chemical compounds, these can be things like carbohydrates, lipids. Lipids are basically fats, so lipids and proteins. Lipids are in parentheses fat, and we also have protein. So all organisms are made up of chemical compounds, whether it be carbohydrates, lipids, or protein. They have all these things in them. Like humans, we have 70% water. We're made up about 70% water. But other than that, we also have carbohydrates, lipids, protein. We have DNA. There's lots of components to our multicellular body. Even if you look at a unicellular organism, single-celled organism, those like protozoa or even bacteria, if you look at that, they also have carbohydrates, lipids, and protein. The organisms with these chemical compounds are essentially are living, right? So that is another characteristic of life. Next one we're going to go to is respond to stimuli. This is actually the last characteristic I'll be discussing today. So respond to stimuli. What this essentially means is that a stimulus is anything that comes from the environment. Like any change that occurs in the environment is called a stimulus. The stimuli is just a plural form of stimulus. So what this means is like if you have a fire, let's say we have a fire here, right? There's smoke coming out, right? And let's say you put your hand here, you touch the fire somehow, right? You immediately this sends a signal to your brain. This sends a signal to your brain here, and this brain is gonna tell you, it's gonna be saying that you have to pull your hand back as quickly as you can. That's the response. The stimulus is you touching the fire, or like let's say you touch a hot stove, or you touch a hot pan. That is your body is then sensing that change. It's sensing that something's really hot here. And I need to pull my hand back before I get hurt. So your brain tells you that, and this message is then going to go to your hand, and then your hand is going to retreat itself. It's going to get it away from the fire because you don't want to burn yourself, right? And your body is telling you it's really hot, and it's going to give you the sense of pain. So you're going to retreat your hand. That's just an example of a stimulus, which is the fire, and the response, which is moving your hand back. Okay, so that's just one example. Obviously, there are many examples of stimuli, but this is just one of them. And I hope you enjoyed this lesson. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. I'll be sure to answer them. And I'll be signing off for today. See you in the next video.